Welcome, returning and new subscribers. This is your goddess, High Priestess, Empress Alba La Pantera. Something about that 424. As I'm putting everything together for the live, I realize I'm starting this at 424. And if you've been here within the last couple months, you already know how significant that number is and how often it pulls up. So, the fact that this is a new moon in Pisces reading message for the collective, and that connects to that being 424 connects to the goddess of death, it's already come full circle in terms of I see why they want me to go the route that I'm about to go for you all in doing this reading. This is why I'm not going to do each sign. This is because the way this energy is going to come through for the collective, you'll know exactly what you're supposed to do based on who you are and the way you have been cosmically designed. Okay? So I pulled a tarot card just to see what's the energy for the collective, and the Five of Cups comes out, which is a card of sorrow, pains, and regrets. Also, Mars and Scorpio. So this is Mars, the use and action of your willpower when it comes to transformation based on what it is that you desire, Scorpio. Okay. Welcome, Fatima. Yes, in here early. I love it. Although never early, never late, but you know what I mean. So the fact that that was the card already sensed the vibe as to like where this message is gonna go. Because I was contemplating, am I going to do this by signs or should I just do it for the collective? You're about to see why. Now, as far as Pisces is concerning, you can see in the image for this video. Welcome, Jovi, my love. The two fishes represent one, sorrow, the other one is power. So that's the story of Pisces, Neptune energy. But Pisces is also ruled by Jupiter. Its ancient ruler is Jupiter. Okay. Welcome, intuitive sister, and welcome, goddess. So I pulled additional cards from the Energy Oracle deck. Okay. Peep what comes out. Peep what comes out. We have the man holding a heart. Okay. Which we can look at in so many different ways. Now, give me a second because if I'm not mistaken, is it 45 that means the strong one? Hold on. 45 is El, or God being the Father. Okay. So I'm seeing this as the God within you holding on to the heart, but in the sense of where you see this is going, because the next card that came out was door to personal healing and happiness. Okay. And this is number 4534. 4534 in the lexical dictionary equates to a hedge. Okay. And a hedge is defined by being surrounded with a barricade or securing a debt in a larger one. So this is like taking out another credit card to pay. Well, this could be like taking out a loan, which puts you still in debt to clear out other debts that you have. Or in terms of your spiritual experience, all of the debts that haven't been paid off from past generations are in you. Due to the imbalance of the patriarch and the matriarch, controlling situations when the only thing that someone is supposed to have control of is themselves. But that leads us as to why you're about to see this is going to be a collective message and not one by signs. Well, You know what's the basis of the contract that you signed before you enter this here realm? That you were willing to enter a realm, Earth, that has a lot to do with the negatives that you have to develop into the picture or learn from lessons, per se. Because Pisces ruling the 12th house is also having to do with karma or self undoing. And now we have a new moon in Pisces, which is basically telling you that everything that you've experienced throughout last March to this point, all of those lessons that you've learned, you're being shown where it is that you have a do over from what you've undone yourself from. If you haven't undone yourself from it, it's obviously going to rise up even more so because you got Jupiter, Chiron, Venus, and Vesta. Okay. The asteroid connected to the goddess of sacred spiritual frequency or sacred spiritual sensuality is also in Aries, the root chakra. So now the energy of Aries is surrounding all of you, which is right after Pisces, is surrounding all of you to let you know, okay, this is showing up, this is showing up, because it's time for you to replant the seeds in the moon in Pisces of your imagination of where you really see your life going. That's DJ Adoni, but Adonis is highly significant. Okay, especially with this man holding the heart over here. And before I get into the reading, this is what I mean when I say I see why we're going to do it collective and not sign by sign. So I'm going to read to you pages 114, 115. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is thee, or so is he. It says here, thought is a creative power in the universe. Universal intelligence operating as thought sprang forth. Spirit sandaled and shod. I'm going to pause right there actually because I highly suggest that if you're watching this one, this would be number 8, the transformation. Watch 7, the one right before this, okay? Because I mentioned in that live yesterday in the evening when Pisces is at when there was a new moon in Pisces or when the sun and moon was in Pisces at 3 degrees. Now, I looked to see when that actually occurred. It was approximately 2 degrees 55 seconds, and this was February 21st, 1993. So the next thing that came across that Spirit said to look at was all of the movies that came out during that time. I'm going to name the movies and I'm going to go back to this. What's significant about these films that came out in the year of 93 when Pisces was the sun and moon at 2 degrees and 55 seconds. Again, I'm referring to what I mentioned yesterday about something happening or shifting or bringing more clarity to you when the moon and sun were in Pisces at 3 degrees. So during this year of 93, pay attention to the movies that came out or that were out. And this is why I stopped when I saw Spirit Sandaled, Mrs. Doubtfire, The Sandlot, Hocus Pocus, Adam's Family Values, Cool Runnings, Free Willy, A Bronx Tale, Sleepless in Seattle, Sister Act 2, Menace to Society, Demolition Man, Coneheads, Dennis the Menace, Poetic Justice, Rookie of the Year, What's Love Got to Do with It? Literally, if there was a lot that was happening within you in terms of what you know now, that a lot of these films will help you to put the puzzle pieces together. When I saw this, I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Because a lot of these were actually coming out, different versions of it or sequel to it came out during these last, what, couple years, right? You got Wednesday from the Addams Family. You got Hocus Pocus. What was it, 2 or 3 that came back out? And it's just like, just with those two, Hocus Pocus and Addams Family, as we're leaving the age of Pisces. I mean, for me, honestly, I feel like we already in the age of Aquarius because the way shit moving is, you got to see it. But let's continue with this message over here. Thought is the creative power in the universe. Once again, thought is the creative power in the universe. It's the effects of thinking, which your brain, in connection to your spinal column, once again, go back to number 7. You're going to see exactly what we talk about right now. Universal intelligence, operating as thought, sprang forth, spirit sandaled and shod, at the appointed time in the appointed place. And lo, the planet Earth, man's sorrowful star, became manifest. Now you're about to see where this comes into play. As far as the 5 of Cups coming out, a card of sorrow, pains, and regrets, with the man holding the heart and the door to personal healing and happiness, of indicating a hedge, which is basically a small debt being paid off with a bigger debt. But the bigger debt actually pays off the smaller debts. Earth is man's sorrowful star, for the reason that only by means of trouble and pain does humanity learn its lessons. So you already see where, for some of you, you may have a tendency, 1222, this is deep within your heart. You have a tendency to ask, why me? Why me? This is something you signed up for. Just like sometimes certain surgeries can have you forgetting things that you have actually experienced in the current life that you're in. It's the same thing that happens, like a change or a transformation, when you're going through the birth canal. So the main thing that the entire collective forgot was the condition as to, the lessons that they're going to learn and where they're going. Okay. Going back again, Earth is man's sorrowful star, for the reason that only by means of trouble and pain does humanity learn its lessons. Spirit, manifesting on Earth, uses Earth as a negative pole in order that the personality may grow. The mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdoms use Earth in much the same way. The Earth is one plane of manifestation. How can a man think in his heart? Or how can you think in your heart? Well, the organ that divides blood was called by the ancients dividing pump, not heart. The real heart is the cerebellum, and was so named by the Greeks, and is the seat of thought. Don't get so wrapped up as to the Greeks, or don't get wrapped up in that, because it's exactly where you get tied up into this whole little game of the competition and the separation, where you are now disconnected from the entire law of one. Okay. Says here, Madame Blavatsky says, in the secret doctrine that the cerebellum contains all, being the seat of intelligence. The thinker, the individual, or man who never dies, has his home, therefore, in the cerebellum, under the shadow of the Almighty. Let's continue. Read what the writer of the 91st Psalm has to say about this, because the Bible is like any other textbook. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. The secret place of the Most High, or secretion, oil, or ointment of the place of the Most High, is that place where the secretion of oil or ointment is found. Once again, the secret place of the Most High is the place where the secret or the secretion of oil or ointment is found. In the Bible, we see so many references to oil anointing, secret secretions, etc. This plainly shows that the place of the Most High is the cerebrum. So when we speak about bringing heaven on earth, it really means bring your true authenticity back, the reason why you're here. You know why you're here. But there are things that you have to do to unravel yourself from the confusion to gain back your power. That's the two fishes. And we just left this age of Pisces, which incorporated a lot more confusion. So we experienced more the dark side of the age of Pisces than the light side of it. But there was supposed to be a balance between the two. But there is a balance between the two, and that's what you call the most wealthiest people in the world. This plainly shows that the place of the Most High is the cerebrum, the portion, that portion of the anatomy of man whence comes the oil or anointment, the precious substance that fructifies the brain of man and causes it to develop. It is that which nourishes the brain. The abiding place of ego is under the shadow of the Almighty, since the cerebrum extends entirely over and around it. And again, the psalmist says, He will cover thee with his pinions, and under his wings shalt thou take refuge. The feathery convolutions which are plainly shown in the upper brain may be well compared to the feathers of a bird. This is why birds are so freaking magnificent. That's the clearest example that you have as the abilities that you can tap into when it comes to things that you may see in a two-dimensional world or within the television. There's certain things that is actually tell true vision, but there are other things where it, you know, it does what it does and flies to. So, the voice of the silence speaks of the ego resting under the wings of the great bird. Once again, the feathery convolutions, which are plainly shown in the upper brain, may be well compared to the feathers of a bird. The voice of the silence speaks of the ego resting under the wings of the great bird. The upper brain is composed of highly specialized substance. It is a reservoir of God's creative compounds. It is that God making material, the kingdom of heaven, wherein all is found. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things shall be added unto you. It didn't say seek outside of you, it said seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, which is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Heaven means heaved up, a high place. The cerebrum is this. Then the kingdom of heaven, for it is within us. By seeking it, we draw from it the precious oil or ointment, which shall nourish the brain and therefore cause it to grow and expand. And when I got to this point, was the first question that came to mind, because remember yesterday the question is the answer. So you mean to tell me usually people go to seek advice about something that's going on within them. They know this is the exact process that's happening, but they tell you something completely different. And as powerful as that heaven operates within you and directs the rest of your body, that's what they know. And like Dr. B says, the farm is still a point of slavery, but it's not an actual farm. Welcome to the age of Aquarius as we approach Pluto in Aquarius and Saturn in Pisces. Checkmate. The cerebrum is Then the kingdom of heaven, for it is within us. By seeking it, we draw from it the precious oil or ointment which shall nourish the brain and therefore cause it to grow and expand. Certain parts of the brain cells are dormant. They are in a certain slow rate of motion or activity and therefore answer to vibrations of their kind. Once again, certain parts of the brain cells are dormant. They are in a certain slow rate of motion or activity and therefore answer to vibrations of their kind. It's basically explaining The Walking Dead. Let us suppose, for example, that the little cell in the brain is composed of a spirale or spiral of nerves, 7 sets of which can be seen by the trained occultist. In a person of low development, only 3 or 4 of these spirales will be found to be active. This is also where you see where people are not tapped into their intuition, because if we're talking about 3 or 4, we're literally talking about from the root chakra to the solar plexus. Luckily for some people, the heart chakra is active. But once that heart chakra is actually active now, everything else here has to start to operate. In a person of low development, only 3 or 4 of these spirales will be found to be active, while the man who is already working along the line of regeneration, living the life of self sacrifice, will show 5 and 6 in active operation. The higher and more lofty the quality of the thought, the finer or higher the vibration. Just as the vibration of the ether strikes upon the tympanum of the ear and produces sound, so are the spirale of the brain cells operated upon by the fingers of the heavenly man when the kingdom is sought. Thought, then, is a vibration. And as a man thinks, so does he vibrate his brain cells. See, when you hear this spiel about disconnect from what no longer serves you, you're reading the background story as to why you should. How many people really think is the next line here? The war has done more to wake people up and set them to thinking than anything else ever could have been done. It has started the process in many people. It has forced them to think. And the biggest war is, mind you, this type of war happens every 100 years, where it's like a mass homicide, basically. You know what I'm saying? And when it gets to that point without weapons, without actual physical weapons, when the body becomes a weapon, it's a different story. When the body becomes a weapon to itself. So I'm saying, you think they don't use astrology against people? That's how they control everything. You know what I mean? So the war has done more to wake people up and set them to thinking than anything else ever could have ever done. It has started the process in many people. It has forced them to think. Thought is a particular development of ideas, something entirely apart from the hit or miss, ramshackle process which has supposed to be thought. Let us begin to think. Let us choose the material from which we shall build our temples, the temple of the living God. The process that the average man calls thought is not consecutive thinking. God hastened the day when people will realize that all that is, has been, or will be is the result of thought. Thought is both creative and destructive. It is God. Generator, operator, destroyer. Not only are we making our bodies now, but we are making those which we shall wear in the future. By the future, I mean when the individual is reincarnated. And this is where you get the essence of the hedge, because you are a reincarnation of your parents. Anytime you have a child, that is a reincarnation of you. So anybody who said that they don't want to reincarnate, obviously, as we begin to develop and we understand what it is that we're saying, you know what I'm saying? We're no longer going to be like, I don't want to reincarnate back here. The moment you have a child, you've already done that. So by the future, I mean when the individual is reincarnated. A great thinker has said, know this mighty fact. The soul is but the fruitage of thought, tinctured and tarnished with the emotions, passions, and desires of the flesh. First, as regards to the physical body, thought selects the food by which the body is nourished. Thoughts selects the food by which the body is nourished. Notice 2626 on the timer. When you're at a high vibration, you want to eat healthier. When you're, even if you're in a position of enjoying yourself, let's say you're out and you're in this high vibration, you're still going to stay according to what actually feeds your body rather than what deteriorates the body. But see, when you go out and you're in this funky ass mood, this is when you're going to start eating a lot of junk shit that don't, belong in your body. So this is also a part of where life is not complicated. We make it so by not fully answering to the nudges, the universal nudges, literally the nudges within you. So the cells of the body are being constantly destroyed and rebuilt. The purest food possible to obtain will construct a pure body. Vegetables, fruits, and grains are much finer constructions than flesh, and hence can vibrate to a much higher rates of motion. Obviously, balance, because I feel like as a collective, before the entire collective gets to a phase where it's just fruits and vegetables, there also has to be the energy of no war on this planet for that not to happen. However, there are those that are supposed to move forward in terms of that type of, way of nutrition. I don't want to say diet, way of nutrition. Okay. Flesh is decaying animal matter and is detrimental to the highest development of man. Much meat eating thoroughly coarsens the body, and the marks of his calling are stamped on the face of the butcher. Now, this is a part where even reading information like this, for me, the bigger picture, where I see the bigger picture, is going back to what I just said. Everything has to happen with a balance. Now, some of this information that you could read where it's telling you to be vegan, if you're really going to be vegan, what up, starling? That's a beautiful starling that just showed up on the tree right there. That's two of them. Give me a second. Let me see what they're saying before I even say anything. But I will finish that statement that if you're a complete vegan, then you're actually somebody who doesn't wear clothes. Honestly, ain't shit wrong with that. But there's too many. The majority are not vibrating higher than the first 3 or 4 chakras, let alone the first 2. Okay, so this is where you have the issues of sexualizing everything to a point of toxicity. 453, look at that. It gives up number 93, which you was talking about, 1993 in the movies that popped through. Image of Satan. Okay. Archangel Raphael. Let me see what's the message from Raphael before we continue here, which is the message of your heart. What's the message of the heart for the collective? And they said to add it with the man holding the heart, so we're going to look at that number together. Jovi, thank you for your energy exchange. Infinite fold back onto you, beloved. And here we have the angel of love. Okay, they said tie it in with the man holding the heart. Okay. And we have appreciation.